I'm a musician. I was born in London, in Hammersmith, in 1959. And most of you will probably know me from my years in Depeche Mode, but I've also got my other project, Recoil, which has actually been going for longer than the period I was in Depeche Mode. My parents wanted me to learn the piano from about the age of 8. And I've got 2 older brothers that are both musicians. And I was expected to follow in their footsteps as a classical musician. But when I got to about 14 or 15, my interest kind of swayed towards pop music. And at the time, that would have been sort of glam rock, David Bowie, Mott the Hoople, Lou Reed, Roxy Music, those kind of people. I kind of write music, but I never think of myself as a writer or composer. I think of myself more as a producer, more like I don't know, a facilitator, a director, if you will, of music. Actually, I wasn't that much aware of Mute Records until I joined Depeche Mode, and it was only afterwards that I went back and discovered what had happened before with the Normal and Fad Gadget, and the influence, the clear influence that they brought to music in general. I mean, the label has been very important, very influential. And Daniel's interest obviously came from the sort of late 70s electro pioneers like Kraftwerk and DAF and Tangerine Dream and Can and people like this. And he was clearly influenced by that himself, and then the label kind of carried on with that influence as well. Depeche Mode could never have happened without punk rock, and this attitude of not being able to play your instrument didn't matter, you know, as long as you had a good idea, you could do it in any simple way. And this was a real eye-opener to someone like myself. I think during the making of Songs of Faith and Devotion, I realised that it wasn't a very enjoyable experience, and this is a paradox really, because I actually think it's the best album we made. But the process of making it was quite difficult. However, it wasn't enough to make me feel that I wanted to continue working in that way. And I had the overriding feeling during the making of that album that I never wanted to work in that way again. So I guess the main reason I left was just this idea that you have to put everything to the vote, everything's a kind of compromise, every musical decision, every creative decision is something that perhaps nobody in the group was totally happy about, but has had to kind of agree to appease another member. My problem with electronic music in general is that sometimes that can be lacking in pure electronics. Even though I love it, someone like Kraftwerk, they're an epitome of minimalism, or Pansonic, or bands like this, you know. But for me, it's not enough, because the pure electronics is a bit too cold for my taste. So I'm more interested in sampling techniques and capturing pieces of performance, and then, as I say, using the digital technology, which I love, and synthesizers and electronics, and to put it all into the melting pot to create something different, you know. I guess the project started around 1986, and I was still very much involved in Depeche Mode's music, and of course, any spare time I had, I would try to fit in a bit of other stuff, and that was what Recoil was for quite a long time. It was just, you know, we were talking earlier about pop format being very confining and very disciplined format to work in, but obviously I have interest in other kinds of music too, and I wanted to experiment with music that was a long way from the pop format, with something very kind of open-ended, a bit more avant-garde in its thinking, you know. It could go in any direction. Really, the thinking behind Recoil was that it could be an open-ended project. It could go in any direction. It wouldn't be like a democracy like a group is. It would be something that I could control and allow other people to come and contribute to, and that's something I still enjoy to this day, you know. Well, part of the fun of this particular project is that every record is a process of self-discovery, you know, and that's how I like it. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how the records are going to sound until they're almost finished, really. So I just start playing around, one thing leads to another, maybe we get a happy accident and I go off in a different direction, and then from there I think, oh, now I've got this, I could maybe hear this kind of singer singing on it, and so the process goes on and on and on, and then eventually you end up with something you can say, ah, this is what I've got. My problem with being a producer for other people is that unfortunately, it often means that you can't really just concentrate on making great music. You know, if that were the case, then yeah, I would be interested in producing other people and working with other artists in that way. But unfortunately, I think the job of production involves far more than that. It usually involves marriage counselling, you know, mediation, being a politician, really. And for all those reasons, that it would feel to me like being back in a band. You know, I remember when I produced the Nights of Reb album, and I get on very well with Nights of Reb. It's only two people, Douglas and Bon, they're both really nice. But it was still a kind of political exercise and making sure one was happy with the other. And, you know, you become an arbitrator rather than someone who's just concentrating on making music.